How's everyone doing? I hope everyone's doing okay today. So the topic of today's video is what makes a character strong. Since there are 6 different classes for the characters in Revived Witch, plus many variables when it comes to enemies and challenges faced and or goals when going up against said enemies, then as you can imagine, there's no simple answer to that question. Something as, say, a high damage output could be negligible if it's not coupled up with the right factors. And evidently, generally speaking, character skills description can be quite misleading. There have been character skills that at first glance seemed average, only to turn out to make whoever had them a must-have. It's really all in the details. So, in this video, I've put together a list of those details that you should look out for when deciding to go for a character. All that's in the list is formed on what I've picked up on from my time playing the game and trying out different characters, and also from reading and learning from other players' experiences. Okay then, let's start. First, arguably the most important thing about a character when considering their strength, the buffs within their skills. I tried to sort of make a tier list for skills buffs. With some of those buffs, I have characters who have them, others I don't, so I had to, air quote, study the top characters across all types to understand them better. But no, seriously, here's what I ended up with, and I invite everyone to share what buffs you think is best or ones that have best worked out for you. At tier 0, we have effects, which speed up or generate either energy or chaos in a significant way. I feel like this is the most valuable effect since at the time of making this video, very few characters have it, so it's rare and it's useful in pretty much all the challenges in the game. Following that is some of the buffs, which I believe makes OP characters OP. That would be applying to enemies, effects like decreasing magic defense, decreasing physical defense, increasing damage taken, etc. After them are effects that increases the damage output. From guardians to mages, most of the top doll's best skill would have an effect that decreases the enemy's defense rather than increases their own damage. I'll put some examples here. Next is all the defensive effects and health recovery. They're placed at a low point because if a character reaches a good to high level, eventually they won't need a healer, much less an effect that simply decreases damage taken. So while it's beneficial to have them at the start of the game, they'll become less so as you progress. On the other hand, extra damage is never not needed. Of course, it's not bad to have those effects, but them being on a skill wouldn't be a reason to pull for dolls with them, unlike with the top 2 tiers buffs we just went over. Needless to say, any buff is better than no buffs at all, except maybe if a doll have to take damage for it. I don't know, I don't have Kamui. Still on the topic of buffs, let's talk about immediate effects versus stacking effects. A skill that has a buff that stacks up to a high number of layers, for example 5 or more, is not necessarily an indication of that skill being bad, rather the possibility of it being a slow skill. To better explain this, let's compare Goddess Dana's skill that has a stacking effect to a similar skill of Shiroi's. For Dana, her order skill effect stacks up to 30%. If we test this, you can see that in order for her to apply the max number of stacks, in other words, to reach the highest damage potential, it takes her 2 skill use, while for Shiroi, her chaos skill effect stacks up to 3 layers, Now let's see how she does. As you can see, she places all stacks from one skill use. And that's one element that makes a skill fast and often subsequently great. The next point is also relating to effects. Don't worry, it's the last one that focuses on that. But it's just as important as the previous two. It's effects duration. Aside from effect lasting beyond whoever possessed them defeat, making them sacrifice worthy, which leads to them for the most part being worthy to have solely for that effect, even if the rest of their skills were bad. On the opposite side of that, you have skills with effects that clears up after a specific number of skill use. We just got done talking about stacking effects. I don't think we need to get into why clearing up buffs is rather a bad effect to have. So moving on. Skill requirement. Generally speaking, a high skill requirement is undesirable, especially for assassins, because one of the best things about them is that they can deal damage fast. Clearly there are exceptions to the rule, but if a character's stronger skill requires like 4 chaos points, that can be remedied by other dolls that generate chaos. However, with order energy, we only have magic-based dolls who help with energy recovery. So for now, it's better to have 2 order point skills, specifically for physical team. Though it's the optimal option, skills that diverge from that shouldn't be immediately dismissed because they might be still good or still worth it. Now, to passive skills. A strong or weak passive skill may not be as vital when selecting a doll as the active skills are, but oftentimes they're what elevates a character. Personally, the type of passive skills I consider good are ones without limitation. For example, not ones that trigger once per battle, and preferably they aren't contingent on skill use, especially if it requires the use of a skill that's not that great or have a high energy or chaos consumption. If it did require skill use and the effects benefits outweigh the excessive, for example healing, then that should be fine. Up next are unique equipments. Just like with passive, if a doll's unique equipment is not good, that can be overlooked. Or if the situation is flipped and it's a good unique equipment, even more valuable than the characters themselves, it may make them worth it. Hence why you may see Ardicia with 0 equipment in top ranking teams. It's a bit extreme to get a character just for their unique equipment effect. I suppose it's the same for lasting effect too. It all depends on how many souls you can spare. The next point is another one that focuses on battle speed, skill, animation. Some characters feel like they get stuck in their animation, and due to that long skill casting animation, that then may lead to a few extra milliseconds added to a battle time. With other characters, it may cause a greater time delay, like with dolls who transform, such as Ella and Gervik. Currently, top 100 ranks and even top 10 ranks give 0 rewards in almost all modes, including event. There was only one event that gave rewards for top ranks, well, as far as I recall, so it's not important, but I guess it's something to consider. Now to the final point in this video, team players and compatibility. What I mean here by a team player is a character that leaves some for others, i.e. it doesn't need to use both order and chaos to activate and get all the necessary bonuses. It's one thing if it's the damage dealer, but if the healer needs both order and chaos, then it's like missing the point of being a support character. There's only 3 spots in a team, so things like that would easily pinch a character, because the character would be fighting for all the orders. Everyone needs to use the order, everyone needs to use the chaos, right? Anyways, a compatible doll is one that makes every team better, and they fit in many team setup without taking all the resources away from their team, i.e. doesn't take all the chaos and order. And that's all the details I'm gonna list for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have some other things that you think is important to pay attention to, feel free to share them in the comments. And yeah, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. Until the next video.